All right, let's clap it up. Shalom, DC, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started out on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahanna. Since 1969, we've been teaching the truth of the Bible. And the truth is that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians are the true Jews, and that our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. We are not affiliated with any other Christian group, Israelite group on the face of the planet. We are the home of the truth. If you haven't heard it from here, it's not true, 100%. Tonight, we're going to get into what this day is all about and what it means to the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American community. Today is the oppressors. Today, the date is the 4th of July. And here in America, in Babylon the Great, it's a national holiday, a national day of celebration to the for the oppressor. It is not a national day of shouldn't be, or should I say, it shouldn't be a celebration to the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Why? It's very easy. It's very clear. You can just look throughout history and look at our role, our place when this so-called declaration, this Declaration of Independence, was signed into existence. Where were Black people in this society? We were slaves. We didn't have a right to go to bed when we wanted to. We didn't have a right to tend to our children when they needed us to tend to them. We didn't have a right to farm and till the land for ourselves, so that we can become a mighty, just not even just a mighty nation, but just a mighty family. You know what I'm saying? You are what you eat. And what did they feed us? They fed us slops. They fed us slops so that we can be low on the earth. You know what I'm saying? Has anybody ever? I know, especially in America, we have a propensity for fast food and whatnot, and just some foods that really aren't good for us. But every once in a while, we'll eat something healthy. And I'm not just saying just a healthy meal. I'm talking about like for a period of time. We'll go through a stretch of time where we actually eat healthy and we actually feel real good. Well, back in those times, even now, even to an extent now, back in those times, we weren't allowed to eat that way. We weren't given the best of anything. Whatever was left over, whatever was deemed non-edible, was given to the slaves. And who were the slaves? It was us. You good? And who were they? It was us. We were given the leftovers, the scraps. Why were we given the scraps? Because we were treated like, actually, I can't even say we were treated like dogs, because dogs were treated better. Dogs were treated a lot better. Their cattle, their horses were treated a lot better than we were. They would let their dogs sleep in their beds. That's what they would let them do. But for us, we were barely able to maintain a living, barely. And on the day of that independence, there was slavery. Before the day of that independence, there was slavery. On the day of the independence, there was slavery. And afterwards, there was still slavery. Even until this day, not one can argue. It's factual. It's written into the DNA. That Declaration of Independence is America's DNA, right? And slavery is written into it. If you look at the original document, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the United States of America, says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if you actually look at the physical, real document, the original document, it'll say life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. But the term property had to be scratched out and had to be more abstract. That word property was a point of contention, a point of debate, where everybody understood. Tell him to put his name down. Everybody understood what they meant by property. Why? Because just the idea of people coming over to the colonies was to get away from, you know, oppression, religious oppression, and they were getting having their beliefs infringed upon. Not only that, it was promise of land and property and a new way of life. So when they came over here, they was promised freedom from certain things, as well as being able to obtain some property, whether it be cattle, whether it be farmland, whether it be, you know, homesteading land, or property in terms of people. Property in terms of people. So that term property was then scratched out and then made into happiness. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, when really they were in suit of property. And we were nothing but property at that point in time. So much so that we had to be considered 3/5 of a man. One slave was considered 3/5 of a man at that point in time. It was called the 3/5 compromise. And if you do your research, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because what that compromise was, in the way that the U.S. government works, they have representation. You know what I'm saying? The democracy is the people is represented within a certain certain government body. More number of people there are in this specific region, this land, the state, this county, the more representatives they get. The South had a lot more people than the North did. But then the North said, we don't include slaves as people because they can't vote. They don't have a right to do whatever it is they want to do. So you can't include them as people. And the South was like, well, we're including them as people because then we get more votes. We get more power in the governing body. And they were warring over that. So the compromise was every one man would equal 3/5 of a man. So we wasn't even included as a whole man. And guess what? That 3/5 compromise is still in the DNA of the United States Constitution right now. They had something called abolition. Anybody know what abolition is? Not slacking, not abolition. Prohibition. Anybody know what prohibition is? Prohibition is when the government went dry, essentially. They told the country that we're going dry. And this lasted only but a few years. When I say going dry, that means it was no alcohol, no drink, no spirits, no wines, no beers, no hard liquor. Everything, all of it was done away with. And that only lasted a few years. And you know what? Sometime after that, they corrected it and put a new amendment in saying we do away with abolition, prohibition. We do away with that. But they see it as something, as a correction. They did something wrong in their eyes, doing away with alcohol. And then they's like, oh, you know what? We messed up. Let's correct it and put it in the DNA of the United States Constitution in the form of an amendment. Did they do that with the 3/5 compromise? No. 3/5 compromise is still in effect. They may wink at it, so to speak. And when I say wink at it, they may say, well, we're just not going to observe that, or we're not going to recognize that, or we're not going to hold the South not liable, but we're not going to hold them to it. But just as easy as they can say we're not going to hold them to it, they can easily say we're going to do it. And Does anybody know the process of getting an amendment put on the Constitution?
So I think it's the bill has to be written, and then it has to go through the Senate, then it has to go through the Congress, and then one of those Supreme Court judges have to vote on it.
Not quite. You got it up to it has to be introduced into all the governing bodies, and the governing bodies has to essentially vote on it. It takes 3/4 of the nation, all the governing bodies, to vote on an amendment to make it law. So I don't know how many 75% of 50 states is, but that's how many states has to agree on the on an amendment in order to make it a standing amendment. Did you know that it was sometime in the early 2000s? I want to say like 2000, maybe 2000, between 2005 and 2010, 2005 2015. I want to say the last state, I want to say, was Alabama, finally ratified. That's the correct term. They have to ratify it. Ratified the 13th Amendment, which they claim abolishes slavery. It took them over 100 years for a state to actually say, all right, yeah, we're going to do away with slavery, when really the 13th Amendment cemented slavery. And yet here we are, the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians have a nerve to celebrate 4th of July. Where were the Native Americans during the so-called independence? They were still at war, being promised a whole bunch of things that to this day, in a form of treaties, that to this day, the United States has never kept any one of those treaties. Not one, not nail one of them. Where's our so-called Hispanic brothers? They had their land stolen from them. Where's our where are the so-called blacks, the blacks? We were in chains. We were in chains. So anybody who dares to try and celebrate, the independence is a traitor. Give me the definition of traitor, if you could, Baba Shaw. Just give me the definition. See what a traitor is.
Come. Traitor. Now, a person who betrays a friend, country, principle, etc.
All right. Read that one more time, Baba Shaw.
Come. Traitor. Now, a person who betrays a friend.
All right. Well, a person who, let's break that part down. A person who betrays a friend. When in the hell was the United States a friend to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians? At what point in time? Never. Not near or a time. So you can't say we were friends. You can't say we were friends. What's the next part of that?
Country.
All right. We're not from here. We're not from here. We were stolen. We were kidnapped and brought over here. The ones that was already over here was not a part of the construction of the Bill of Rights. Was not a part of the construction of this the governing body of this land called Babylon the Great, spiritual Egypt. So whose country is this? It's a country of a people of rapists and murderers and thieves and liars who came over here, promised one thing and delivered something else, delivered death and destruction and poverty and mental illness, PTSD. That's whose country this is. Why am I going to celebrate a people who have done all those things to my people? Why would I celebrate that? If I do, I am a traitor. More than a traitor. Read that definition again, Baba Shaw.
Come. Traitor. Now, a person who betrays a friend, country, principle, etc.
who betrays, who goes against it, who goes against it. Not only that, Slakia got something for them. We do not own the rights to this song, but all right, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. That's who really celebrates of the black and brown community. Those are the people who celebrates Thanksgiving, 4th of July. Those are the people who celebrates 4th of July. You know who doesn't celebrate it? People who are warriors, who know who they are and refuse to join hands with people who have done such devastating things, not only to their ancestors, but to us still to this day. Still to this day. You know what they're doing to the Hispanic children on the border right now? They're in cages, separated from their parents, children, babies, even separating them from their parents. There's a picture. There's a picture of this couple. The father's holding a baby. And I'm guessing the only reason why the baby is with the father is because it's a male baby. That's the only thing I can surmise. It could be for some other reason. But the father's holding the baby, and is a chain link fence, and the mother is on the other side of the fence breastfeeding the baby. Right? What kind of monster? What kind of monster separates families like that? For what? For what? And then what will happen oftentimes, what will happen is they'll deport the parents and then leave the children right here. So you want to celebrate a people that got their independence. And what is really, if you look back at history, what is the real cause? What is the real reason of the independence of the United States of America? There was an underlying cause for the reason why the British colonies wanted to separate from Great Britain.
Sorry, sir. I think it's because they didn't want to be subjugated to the rules of England, and they didn't want to pay taxes over there too.
Yes, but not all the way home.
I don't know the full history.
Well, the basis of it was there was. Have you ever heard of no taxation without representation?
That's one of the logos that was in DC.
Yeah. That's one of their trademark. I wouldn't say trademark, but that's one of their slogans, right? No taxation without representation. That was big. You ever heard of the Boston Tea Party?
Concert.
You know what the Boston Tea Party was about?
It was about getting taxed for the tea that they was getting from India when they could grow their own tea.
Well, okay, so Great Britain had control of India, and India was where they was growing that tea and was shipping it all around the world, right? They taxed since they were British colonies, they still had British tendencies. One of the things that the Brits had and still does to this day is tea time. It's one of their, and even if you look around the world where there was a strong British presence, former colonies and whatnot, British colonies and whatnot, there's still a concept of tea time, right? They kind of, I'm not gonna say they hold it sacred, but there is an emphasis on it. Maybe not as much now as it has been in the past, but there's still an emphasis on tea time, right? So they still had this concept, this notion of tea, right? Where tea was one of the larger imports within the colonies, right? Great Britain taxed the hell out of them on that tea, right? Not only did they tax them, they said, well, in order for you to tax us, you have to we have to have a say, a yes or no. We have to agree upon it. Well, in order for you to agree upon it, you have to be represented in where they agree on it, right? And that governing body. So Britain was like, well, you're not even allowed to vote on it. So So we're still going to continue to tax the hell out of you on this stuff, right? The colonies was like, well, we ain't paying. Not only we ain't paying, but we're going to dump the tea that you just brought in. So not only you're missing out on the taxes, but you're missing out on whatever you spent on the money to get this, product shipped over here. So that was one of the bigger conflicts that the colonies had with the governing body, the British body. Long story short, it was no taxation without representation. They just wanted to tax and tax and tax. All the burdens that Great Britain had was being relieved from the taxes that was being collected from the colonies. So, and at one time, they said the sun would not set on the British Empire. Do you know what that means?
Sorry, that's a metaphor saying that the British Empire would never fall.
No. That means it was a British governing body in all parts of the land. So if you just look at the globe, the sun is only up on a portion of the globe, right? And as the globe turns, some gets light, some gets sunlight, and others, goes into darkness, goes into night. So when they said the sun does not set on the British Empire, the Brits had an empire that spanned all over the goddamn globe, all over the world, yeah. And in order to maintain that, they needed money. At the time, one of the largest commodities was slavery. Soon after that, once they figured out that, cotton and tobacco. Cotton, tobacco, and sugar. Those were the three main things after slavery. Why? Because slavery was free labor. You get away if you go to like one of the largest things is like construction, right? If you look at construction deals, can tend to be millions and millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars, depending on what it is you're making. The largest expense is manpower. Largest expense. And if it's not 50, it's 60 and 70% of that total budget goes to manpower. A large portion of that goes to manpower. If you look at any company and it breaks down into whatever it is that they do, majority of the times, manpower, labor, a lot of that budget goes to labor and manpower. And if you look at how the way this U.S. was built, it was built totally free. The colonies was built totally free. And what in the world were they complaining about? They didn't have to pay for labor. And it was in all 13 colonies, original colonies, where slavery was. A lot of people say, well, slavery was only a Southern thing. No, slavery was a thing of the 13 original colonies and the entire United States of America. Don't let them fool you. Here's another additive that people say, that people try and get you over on. They say slavery was so long ago. It was so long ago. Anybody know who Ronald Reagan is? Yeah, Ronald Reagan died in 2004. Give me the year when Ronald Reagan died, if you could, Baba Rashad. Because I just want to show you how close the founding fathers were to today's time. Everybody in here, maybe except for the young man over here, has heard of Ronald Reagan. You got it? You got the time? The year, I mean?
Ronald Reagan, he was born February 6, 1911, and died June 5th, 2004.
He died in 2004. How many years ago was that? It was 18 years ago? 18 years ago. It was 18 years ago where he died. He was alive when Harriet Tubman died. Google when Harriet Tubman died. I want to say it was 1916 or 1914. That was when Harriet Tubman died. Everybody knows who Harriet Tubman is, right? Harriet Tubman was the quote unquote owner operator of the Underground Railroad, where she risked her life and limb on trying to set some slaves free. She smuggled them out from the South and led them up to the North to freedom. Right? Not only did it lead them to the North, there was also a route that went south into Mexico. You know what I'm saying? That went south into Mexico. So we had runaway slaves who escaped slavery both to the north, not just to the northern states, but north to Canada and down into what was like New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, California, Texas. All that was Mexico, but even further down into Mexico as well. So it went both ways. When did Harriet Tubman die? Tell me when she died.
Harriet Tubman died of pneumonia on March 10th, 1913.
1913. When was Reagan born?
1911.
1911. So everybody knows Reagan. Everybody knows, and Reagan just died about 18 years ago. He is not such a far-reaching, politician in history. That's modern history. Would you agree? That's fairly modern history. You know what I'm saying? There's videotapes on Ronald Reagan. He was an actor. There's videotapes on him. You know what I'm saying? There's books written on him and all that stuff. There's very little audio tape of Harriet Tubman. Very, very little. I think there's, a few, but it's not a lot. There's some audio tape of Harriet Tubman. There's a lot of pictures of them. They perpetuate one picture of this old, elderly, slight and build woman, but she was a powerhouse. She was a powerhouse. Yeah. That's a picture that everybody perpetuates. Yeah, let me see that if you could, Bob Shaw. The water. This is a photo of Harriet Tubman that they perpetuate, right? If you can see that, everybody's seen this picture. Everybody's seen this photo. The water. The point I'm trying to make is Ronald Reagan died, a generation, not even a generation ago. He was alive when Harriet Tubman was alive. Let's bring that even more into our consciousness. When was she born? It said, I know it's disputed, but it's disputed to have been she was born in the early 1820s.
March 1822.
So there's some conflict. Some historians say that they don't really know exactly which date it is, but some historians say, or majority of the historians say that she was born in the early 1820s. Let's connect the dots. Let's go a little further. Get me Thomas Jefferson. Tell me when he was born and when he died. Anybody in here know who Thomas Jefferson is? Anybody in the chat know who Thomas Jefferson is? Just type it in the chat. Tell me, who is Thomas Jefferson? You got the date and birth, the birth and the death of Thomas Jefferson? Do you? Yes or no?
Nah, I have the death date.
You don't have the birth date?
Nah,
all right, okay, hold on.
I have it, sir.
From Egypt to Israel. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Give me the date. The dates for Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson was born April 13th, 1743.
What year?
1743.
He was born in 1743. When was the independence of the United States?
1776.
1776. So he was alive during the independence of these here United States. What date did he die?
July 4th, 1826.
1826. 1826. Do you see the lifespans of these three? Just three people went back to the inception of this Babylon the Great. Three people. The two former presidents and one of the staples in the so-called black community, Harriet Tubman. And there is absolutely zero love lost for the two presidents, especially Reagan. Negroes didn't like Reagan at all. Anybody who knew anything about politics during that time frame when he was in office knows that he didn't like Negroes, and Negroes didn't like him. One of the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, had slaves. I want to say the number was he had quite a number of slaves. It was a few hundred. It wasn't just like two or three that was around the house. Nah, he had a few hundred. He was the founding father, and he was well, let me get that. I want to say he was one of the presidents. Yeah, he was a president. He was a president. You had some?
Counselor. Despite working tirelessly to establish a new nation founded upon principles of freedom and egalitarianism, Jefferson owned over 600 enslaved people during his lifetime, the most of any U.S. president.
The most of any U.S. president. Now, the very first president, George Washington, he had slaves. You know the no, I'm not even gonna go there. Thomas Jefferson was a good businessman, put it that way. He didn't have slaves per se. He inherited the slaves. When I say he inherited the slaves, he married into a family that had slaves. And whatever was her family's, became his. When he married into the family, they only had, they had a few number of slaves. I'm not even sure how many, but it was not a lot. But under the tutelage of this devil businessman, he ballooned that number. And I want to say, let's just be. I'm gonna get that number. Hold on. But he had less than 100. I know he had less than 100. By the time he died, he ballooned that number up to over 300, almost 400 slaves. That's how much of a devil this dude is. After he went and fought and tried to free his country, he then and his country was only being subject to money. You know what I'm saying? Being stripped of money, more money. They wasn't stripped of, their liberties. They wasn't stripped of their dignity. They wasn't stripped of their names. They wasn't stripped of their wives. They wasn't stripped of their manhood. They wasn't stripped of their children. They were stripped of some money, something that any of us can get at any point, any given time. It may come easier for some of us than it does for others, but we can all get our hands on a couple dollars every now and again. There's one Ponzi scheme that everybody seems to be up on. It's called a slavery. It's called a job. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can get one of them. It may not be up to your liking, up to your satisfaction, up to your skill level, but worst comes to worst, and that goes for the whole entire black community. Why? Because especially these government agencies, where if we walk out, the agencies crumble. You know what I'm saying? These and at least in DC, black women make up around, I want to say the number came out was like 60% of government employees. But the heads of those departments aren't us. We don't represent them. You know what I'm saying? Heads of those government agency is not us. But yet we run the whole thing. We walk out tomorrow. If all of us, Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, just decide not to go to work, not to do our slavery, this whole nation will go down. This whole nation. You think $7 a gallon for gas is bad? You think $4 or $5 for a gallon of milk is bad? You think $7 for a pound of chicken is bad? All of this stuff will stop, will cease if we decide we don't want to partake anymore. Where was I? Thomas Jefferson. When did he die? One more time, Barbara Shaw.
Czechoslovakia. July 4th, 1826.
1826. Harriet Tubman was born in 1822. Early 1800s. Fast forward that. She died when Reagan was alive. So when people say, that's three people right there connected to, connected in time, going all the way back to the inception of this country. So when people say that slavery was 400 years ago, you a goddamn lying. I just proved to you. That we know people who was alive back then. We've been in contact with people who was alive back then. Everybody knows who Reagan is. Everybody knows who Tubman is. Not everybody has seen Ronald Reagan. You know what I'm saying? Generation before mine have seen Ronald Reagan on a fairly regular basis. Why? Because he was a president. He was a president. He was all over for 8 years. He was a president for 8 years. He was all over the news. And the Republicans hold him up to be like their Jesus. Our parents have seen Ronald Reagan, whether it was actually in a rally or seen him in real life, or they seen him on TV. We can't really say that for Harriet Tubman. Only thing we can see is a picture of her. And then you go back to one of the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. Wasn't he raped a 14-year-old? Wasn't that him, or was that John Adams? I don't want to libel these devils. I know one of them did it. I want to say it was Thomas Jefferson. Let's look that up real quick. Thomas Jefferson had a mistress, and it was his slave, and she was 14 years old. I want to say she was 14 years old when she had a baby too. Yeah, it was Thomas Jefferson. Sally Hennings. And he called her his concubine. She was a baby. What's the difference between him and Muhammad? What's the difference? They're both pedophiles. Both leaders of their own, nation, so to speak. They're both leaders in their community, I would say. And you want to celebrate bastards like this? How dare you? How dare you have the audacity, the gall to go up and celebrate someone like this? Celebrate who had, if we was in that time, there was only a certain portion of the country that we can go in without having proper paperwork. But yet everybody's celebrating, and when they sign the Declaration of Independence means you're free from something. They're getting free from the rule of the British colonies to pay more taxes. Meanwhile, they're oppressing whole nother people and still importing a whole nother people. Stripping that people of their language, stripping that people of their identity, of their dress, of the way they wear their hair, of the way we wear our hair. They cast down, the Gadites, the North American tribes, onto reservations. Put our people in reservations when they had free reign to this whole nation, to this whole continent, where we did have differences with our other tribesmen, but we worked it out. Not to whereas we say, hey, and the way we worked it out was, all right, you stay on the west side of the Mississippi River and we stay on the east side. Now that is in no way, shape, or form a concentration camp. That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of what the oppressors is doing to our Native American brothers and sisters. Is saying that you have a house. Let's just say you have a house. Someone comes in, kicks in your door. Actually, you invite them in. They knock on your door and say, hey, we need some help. And you say, all right, well, I'm gonna help you. Come on in. It's cold outside right now. Come on in, get warm by the fire. I'll be right back with some food and some water. And when you come back, they invited their whole family in and put a gun to your head and say, get your hind parts. I built a room in the basement. Just one room, one small room, not the whole basement. You just got one room in the basement. Now you and your family, all your family, everybody else living in here, you get in that damn basement. And don't come out until I tell you to. That's what it's like to put the Native Americans on a reservation. All of this is theirs. All of it. Now they're on some reservation, and it's a wonder that we got Native Americans still here. Has anybody really has anybody ever walked and talked before we came into the truth? Walked and talked and seen a Native American man or woman, like in real life? Has anybody? You got something?
Yeah, my great grandmother claims that she has some native blood, but who really knows?
Even that right there tells us we don't even know who we are. But if you go onto a reservation, are you asking them? Are you saying, hey, are you really Native American? No. So I'm talking about them. If you has any of us ever ran into a Native American man or woman on a regular basis? And I'm not talking about hearing the truth, because hearing the truth, we run into them all the time. Those are our brothers. Those are our sisters. Hardcore brothers and sisters. Why is that? When this is their land, why is it that we haven't? Most people have never ran across a real Native American, and I'm not talking about, oh yeah, I got 10% Native American in me and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Not like the oppressor says, hey, I'm 1/8 Native American. You're looking like Hitler's grandchild. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about them quarter Indians. Nah. I'm talking about, well, so why is it that we don't even we can't even go to a place to go and visit them? Even in the states where there are reservations, where they are is like you gotta go 3-4 hour drive just to get to them. They are literally out in the middle of nowhere. Literally out in the middle of nowhere. This country went into a Great Depression in the 20s. Consequently, I didn't even realize it till I heard one of the captains talk about it. Great Depression, the whole country was in a depression. You know where we were? You know where we were, so-called blacks? We were establishing Black Wall Street when it was one of the heights of our accomplishment, where we had, we had doctors who come home to your home and visit you when you're sick. We had lawyers, we had businessmen, we had businesswomen, we had our own entertainment. We had an airfield. We had our own airfield. Not only that's in in the South. You know what I'm saying? That's Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was other places that were similar to that, just not on that scale, but that was getting to that level. You let us live a decade or two more, and this was during the Great Depression. You let us live a decade or two more, there would be other major cities that was on that level or getting there. Then you got the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance, the Roaring 20s, that was in the 20s. That's when we had, great musicians. We had great minds. We had great, Madam C.J. Walker. That was during the Great Depression. Black millionaires. You know what I'm saying? Look at this. Give me that. Let me see that Baba Shah. Let me see that right quick. Yeah, this is okay. So these are massacres. All right. This is not what I'm referring to, but yeah, even throughout all these cities, we had excellence. And these places were places where we were not, other places where we were not welcome. So we had to gather together. Give me Zephaniah 2:1. Give me Zephaniah 2:1. For all these coons out there, I want you to read what God has said about us, said to us. Because right now there was something happening right outside of Chicago where 6 people were killed, and it was a bunch more that was injured because they haven't found out. And honestly, unfortunately, when I heard about it, I thought it was a cookout that went awry. That went awry about something. Somebody had some money that didn't belong to them. Someone had some honey that didn't belong to them, or someone got too sauced up, or someone reneged when they shouldn't have reneged and got caught. That's what I thought. Unfortunately, but when I come to find out, when I actually read into it, somebody, and they haven't found out who it was on top of a building. And this, honestly, this is not. Now, we do dirt. I'm not gonna lie. So-called Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans do dirt. We do, but we do dirt in a certain type of way. We ride by and shoot the block up. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know what I'm saying? We do that. Unfortunately, because we don't know who we are and exactly who the people that we're targeting, we do dumb nonsense like that. It's just dumb nonsense. It's stupidness, right? But then you got some oppressors who try and do something like that from afar. Now, I'm not saying this is an oppressor, but it has the markings of an oppressor all over it. This person went on the roof of a building and started shooting into a crowd down below. If anybody's ever been to Chicago or even the surrounding areas of Chicago, it's not a 2 or 3 story building. You know what I'm saying? It's high rises, 10, 15, 20 story buildings. So this dude went on, or this person, they don't know if it's a man or a woman because they haven't caught them yet. Went on the top of the roof and just started shooting down. Killed 6 people. Injured a bunch of other people. When we go back to Rosewood, when we go back to Seneca Village, when we go back to Black Wall Street, when we go back to the Harlem Renaissance, this is what this scripture, you look at all those places, and the fall of us was when we invited somebody else in. This scripture tells us how we should operate. Give me Zephaniah 2:1.
Come. Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. Gather yourselves together.
What?
Gather yourselves together.
Keep going.
Yea, gather together.
He said it twice. The Most High told us twice in the very same verse. Gather yourselves together. Come together, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. Come together. Keep going.
Gather together, O nation not desired.
Because we are not desired. Nobody wants us. And here's something that is just so Christian. And we can thank Martin Luther King for this. We can thank Frederick Douglass for this. There is a speech that Frederick Douglass gave on 4th of July. It was actually the 5th of July, but it was about the 4th of July. He gave a speech on the state of black people on the 4th of July and how it's contradictory. Why? Because he goes into it. He goes into it and he explains, hey, look, it's good for y'all that y'all got it. I mean, we're gonna get into it. It's good that y'all got into it, but what's it to us? We didn't gain our liberties. We didn't gain our freedoms. We wasn't free to do anything. Even though it says, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, all men are created equal. Well, all men was not enslaved. All men was not captured and beaten and branded and then put on the bottom of slave ships and somehow survived the journey from the west coast of Africa to the Western Hemisphere, to the shores of America, or the islands of the Caribbean, or in South America. And then once they got out, they were beaten and branded again, and then put on auction blocks and shamed, and then sold. And if you didn't do what you were told to do, you were beaten some more. You still didn't do it, you were beaten some more. You ran away. Other regions, there were certain regions that had certain tactics. We all know what happened. Well, one of the popular stories, I'm not even sure if it was actually true, but one of the popular stories was Kunta Kinte, right? Toby. He ran away. Kunta ran away, but when they chopped his foot off, that's when he really became Toby. Like, I ain't running away no more. All right, you got my foot. Other places, they will put these huge, if you've been to our camp, you would see what they did. They put these huge iron bars on us. They call them jingle bells. And they put little bells on the end of them so that you literally cannot run. You can barely walk. You can barely operate. You can't lay down. You have to sit up if you want to sleep. And they put them little jingle bells on them so that they knew exactly where you were at all times of day and all times of night. If that didn't work, you had some way of getting that thing off of you. What the South, certain parts of the South, like Louisiana, the French areas, what they would do, they would cut your hamstring. They would cut your hamstring. Now you might think like, all right, well, that's not nothing. If anybody has watched any sports, just watch sports, and they see how some of these athletes, basketball players, football players, baseball players, tennis players, golfers, even golfers, they're not doing much running. You know what I'm saying? They're doing a lot of standing, swinging, and hitting the ball. If they have a hamstring injury, they're out 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And those are people that are at the top of their the physical spectrum. You know what I'm saying? The slaves were at the top of the physical spectrum. Because what were we doing? We were the backhoes. We were the what's some of them heavy machinery that we have today? The caterpillars. What else? The bobcats. That was us. That was us. We was the Mark Henrys driving stakes into the ground. So we were at the top of our physical abilities. Now, if we stranded, we might be hobbling for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, because we didn't really know how to nurse that back to. Well, we couldn't. I ain't gonna say we didn't know. We couldn't. We couldn't go to rehab. We couldn't rest. We couldn't do that. We had to perform. or they're going to take our kids. We have to perform, or they're going to take our food. We gonna have to, and what little food we had to perform, or they was going to sell us down the river. Now, if you imagine if you just sprain your hamstring, imagine getting a cut. You can't walk. There is no hope of getting that ability back again. You limping the rest of your days. You get older, and when you get older, your body just naturally starts to break down. You just can't move the way you moved, when you were younger. And if you had that cut hamstring, man, hell. That is absolute hell. Absolute hell. And you want to celebrate people that did that to us? You want to celebrate people? I don't know the sister's name, but this is in St. Louis. The brother said out there in St. Louis, he said that he actually went out on the street and got eyewitness testimony about this sister who was shot by this cop. Before she was shot, she put her hands up and said, I'm pregnant, don't shoot. And then he still shot her. Killed her and the baby. You want to celebrate people like that? You want to celebrate people who say you must comply with the law, and then when you comply with them, you shoot them anyway? Because that's exactly what happened with Philando Castile. They told Philando Castile, they said you need to have a license. You need to have a license to be able to conceal and carry your weapon. And if anybody knows what goes into that, is there is a background check. There's also a class on you have to learn how to properly carry a firearm and exactly how you should do it and where you can go and whatnot and all this. There's the whole thing behind the concealed carry license. It's not just have an application, you fill it out and then they give it to you. You pay a fee and they give it to you. No, it's something else that goes into it. He went into this. They checked his background. They said he was suitable to carry concealed, and then they issued him a license. And then when that cop stopped his woman, and he told him, hey, I'm concealed carry. I have it. It's right over here. They told him to get it out, not get out the weapon, but get out the license to show him that he can conceal carry. They executed him in front of his wife. They executed in front of his daughter. So much so that his wife was strong in that moment. His wife was strong in that moment. I honestly didn't even know his daughter was there. And this is such a evil bastard. The way he was shooting could have shot his daughter. Yeah. And his daughter was sitting in back of him. Had no regard for the other people that was in the vehicle with him. After he gave him the order to, and this was an order, he gave him the order to take out the license to prove that he was able to conceal carry. He got so scared that he shot into the vehicle, and then they held him not guilty. They found him not guilty. I am not celebrating the birth of that. I am not a traitor to that, to my people. I stand for Philando Castile. Right. I stand for Ahmaud Arbery. Right. I stand for Sandra Bland. Right. I stand for Trayvon Martin. Right. I stand for all my people that have been killed unnecessarily, unduly, unjustly by the hands of our oppressor. I do not stand for 4th of July. I do not stand for the national anthem. Do not stand for none of that. You have some?
Slocky, sir. You was bringing up his rib being strong.
Uh-huh.
Got to give it up to his daughter too, because in the end, when his rib was in the car breaking down, his
rib was where?
In the back of the police car.
In the back of the goddamn police car. Where was his daughter? Where is that kid with him?
His daughter was in the police car with his rib.
Now, why was she, after they shot and killed her husband, why is she put in the back of the goddamn police vehicle? And just to that point, that was when she realized the gravity of the situation. Her husband died right there in front of her and her daughter. And then she broke down. And when she broke down, the daughter was strong enough to console her mother after she witnessed her father being executed. Nah. I don't stand for 4th of July. Don't wish me no happy. No, I'm not happy. Only Independence Day that I'm going to celebrate is the Passover and when the Most High sends Christ back. Those are 2 Independence Days I will celebrate. But I cannot celebrate the second one until Christ comes back. That's when we will truly be independent of our oppressor. Salakia, hold on. Nah. Salakia, bear with me just for a minute. See if you can open that.
Console.
You got it? All right, hold on. I'm gonna get there with you. You ain't reading this whole thing. I'm gonna get here with you as well. Salakia, just give me one moment. All right. You got it?
Console.
All right, go down to the second paragraph. My fellow citizens. Now, this right here is Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech, right? He was invited at some university to give a speech on the 4th of July of Black people on the 4th of July, right? And this is what he had to say. We're not going to read this whole thing because it's fairly long, which you can Google, Frederick Douglass 4th of July speech and read it for yourself. Actually, recently they Huffington Post, I want to say, no, NPR gathered together a few of his descendants, Frederick Douglass' descendants, his great grandchildren, and they read a few snippets of the speech. Right? You got some?
So what's NPR?
It's a news organization. So it's like the Daily Post or something, like the Associated Press. It's a news outlet. Gotcha. So that's who NPR is. But they gather a few of his grandchildren, great grandchildren. There's a few greats in there, but and they read snippets of it. And at the end, they asked them, how do you feel about his speech then and the plight of Black people today, and they gave a very Martin Luther King Christian goddamn answer. After all that they know, because they know that this is their that he's in their that they're in his lineage, that they're in his lineage. They know who he is and what he fought for, what he stood for. He escaped slavery and became this, this great man, things that he had to deal with, and the things that other black men and women had to deal with, both back then, all the way up until now. And yet these young men and women still thought that there was hope to try and appease the oppressor somehow. If we just get them to understand that what they're doing to us is so goddamn wrong, then maybe they will take their foot off of our neck. There was another story. It's like it's when I said that, I saw another story about this oppressor who was arresting somebody, and he literally put. You seen that? Did you see that?
He stepped on.
He stepped on his neck.
Stepped on his neck. Sir.
Straight stepped on his neck. I'm gonna bring that out later, some other time. But he straight stepped on his neck. But let's read this. Go to the second paragraph where it says, "My fellow citizens."
Come on, sir. Should I read a title, name, date, and then go to the second paragraph?
The title is a 4th of July speech from Frederick Douglass. Just go to the second paragraph.
Come on. Fellow citizens.
He only did this once, so it's not a number of 4th of July speeches he had. This is the only one he had. I mean, he had a bunch of writings, and this is the most popular writing he's had. I mean, is in the form of a speech, and he gave the speech, but it's also written and it has been disseminated. This is the most popular thing he's written, other than his biography. So his story about how he escaped slavery and became the man that he was, that was his number one. This was his number two, and he's throughout his life he's had a bunch of writings and speakings and all that. But those two, this stands above all the other stuff he's done except for his autobiography. Keep going.
Come. Fellow citizens, I shall not presume to dwell at length on the associations that cluster about this day. The simple story of it is that 76 years ago, the people of this country were British subjects. Right.
So he's talking about independence, right? So this is 1852. Right? Keep going.
Come. The style and title of your sovereign people, which is in quotations, in which you now glory, was not then born. You were under the British crown. Your fathers esteemed the English government as the home government, and England as the fatherland.
Right.
This home government, although a considerable distance from your home, did, in the exercise of its parental prerogatives, impose upon its colonial children.
Now, hold on. You have the way this brother's talking? He was a slave. He was a slave who taught himself how to read and write. And he's talking like this. I kind of want to throw a shot at the mumble rappers, but I'm going to the way of Cap. I'm going the way of Cap and just not doing that. But them mumble rappers, they know what they're doing. I just old school. Let's go. Keep going. Slack it.
Go. Such restraints, burdens, and limitations as in its mature judgment it deemed wise, right, and proper.
That so he's saying to them that the thing that they're about to do to declare independence, because of what they thought was going on, they seen it was right to them. Right? Keep going.
Come. But your fathers, who had not adopted the fashionable idea of this day, of the infallibility of government, and the absolute character of its acts, presume to differ from the home government in respect to the wisdom and the justice of some of those burdens and restraints. They went so far in their excitement as to pronounce the measures of government unjust, unreasonable, and oppressive, and altogether such as ought not to be quietly submitted to.
All right, so right here he's telling the people what they already know. The reason why that they became or went for their independence was because they were feeling oppressed and they couldn't stand for it. All the while they were oppressing another people. All the while they were oppressing another people. They couldn't say, hey, man, these guys are oppressing us. Maybe we shouldn't oppress them. And maybe we shouldn't oppress them. And maybe we shouldn't oppress them. Nah, they couldn't even see past their own face. They couldn't see past their own nose about their own wrongdoing. Keep going.
I scarcely need say, fellow citizens, that my opinion of those measures fully accords with that of your fathers, feeling themselves harshly and unjustly treated by the home government. Your fathers, like men of honesty, the men of spirit, earnestly sought redress.
All right, see, now he knows he doesn't have that much power, even though he has a little bit of power, an inkling of power. He knows he doesn't have that much power. That's why he's pandering to them, right? Skip me down. Skip me down. Skip me down to the next paragraph, the madness of this course.
The madness of this course, we believe, is admitted now, even by England, but we fear the lesson is wholly lost on our present ruler.
Right? All right. So even England knows what the hell's going on, which really wasn't right. They knew that they won right. But what has transpired has transpired. And there was no turning back, especially at this point, decades later, right? Keep going.
Oppression makes a wise man mad.
Man, where did I hear that from? Where did I hear that from? And he goes into the scripture, a few times. I want to say is right in here. He says what?
Oppression makes a wise man mad.
Now he knows where he is and who he's talking to, so he's gonna have to. He ain't one West, so he can't say that these devils, are devils that the Bible speaks of. He doesn't know that, even though he knows that. Right. How do we know he knows that? Because he was the product of their devil, of their deception, tricking us into thinking that we are less than nothing. And he fought against that and ran away and made something of himself. Right? He dedicated his life to be an abolitionist. Keep going.
Oppression makes a wise man mad. Your fathers were wise men, and if they did not go mad, they became restive under this treatment.
They became what? Restive under this treatment. If they did not go mad, they became restive under this treatment. It's meaning that that they're the way that they think just ain't good. You know what I'm saying? They get agitated, right? Keep going.
They felt themselves the victims of grievous wrongs, wholly incurable in their colonial capacity. With brave men, there is always a remedy for oppression.
Right? With brave men, there's always a remedy of oppression. What is one of the sayings, the mottos of I.S.U.P.K?
No cowards, no excuses.
Exactly. No cowards, no excuses. That term, no cowards, you know what I'm saying? When I was young in the truth, I thought, not being a coward means, you standing in the face of what you would believe true defeat, or if you're someone's threatening you, you come in their face and you stand up to them. You know what I'm saying? You face that battle. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought the courage was, which it is. It's that's part of being courageous. I saw a post online where it was this woman at a gas station running, hightailing it away, and left her baby right there. Now in the UPK, we're taught we give our life up for our kids. Man, you give your life up for your family. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're taught. In that instance, there's nothing that baby could have done to protect himself. He didn't even know that there was danger. He just stood there and while his mother just ran away. That's not having courage. You know what I'm saying? Something like that, on face value, that's all I thought courage was. But when I came in and I actually, seeing different things, and I'm gonna share this story real quick. I was talking to this brother who's in the world, and we slaved together, right? I knew he was a Christian, right, and all that, and he was one of them. He's one of them Christians. Like now I look back at it, it just makes me want to vomit, honestly, right? But then he found out, and we found out like around the same time who we really were, right? We talked about it, and we talked about it. It was kind of like, and long story short, we talked about it, right? And that whenever because we stationed overseas together. Whenever I get up with him, because I don't get up with him that often because he's still overseas. He's going every other place. Whenever he comes back or whenever he needs something, he gives me a holler, shout, and we talk about it. And I tell him, man, won't you come to class? Won't you come in? Won't you come do this and that, right? He says, yeah, I know who you are. I know what the school stands for, but I'll never. Not he says he wants to join a camp. He wants to join some camp, but he will never join this camp, nor will he join a camp in the U.S. And the reason why he said he won't do that, you know what I'm saying? When he said that, it took me a second, like literally a second, then I understood what he was saying, because he has a lot to lose in his personal life if he's affiliated with any of these, Hebrew Israelite groups, right? He knows his livelihood is at risk, is at stake. When I told Captain Mashak that, and he was like, yeah, he's just a coward. That's what it means to that UPK, no coward. There was a brother who was in the military. And if anybody knows who was in Esau's military, once you get to 20 years, once you get to 20 years, you get a full, pension, right? For the rest of your life. This brother found the truth, and all he had to do was 2 more years, right? He gave all that up. And came into the truth. That's a no coward soldier right there. Brothers who was in the world, who was getting getting a ton of money, getting a ton of something that they believed was good, and knowing that they couldn't do that anymore, and came in here as courage, right there, telling your woman that we're not celebrating Christmas is courage. Telling your woman that we're not celebrating birthdays is courage. A lot of times, and that's courage. I'll just leave it at that. Because most households outside of the UPK are not set up to where when the man says something, it gets done right then and there. Most households are not set up like that. 9.5 times out of 10, it's set up when the woman says something, it gets done. And that's backwards. And that's why we celebrate Christmas. That's why we celebrate birthdays. That's why we celebrate 4th of July. When celebrating the 4th of July is nothing but eating pork. You know what I'm saying? Go to a 4th of July cookout. Nothing but pork everywhere. What are you celebrating? You celebrating the dude that killed Philando Castillo? You're celebrating the dude that killed Ahmaud Arbery? You celebrating the dude that killed the what's that sister's name? Slakia. Sister who got shot in California. One of the you know what I'm talking about? She got shot in 92, right before the Rodney King Latasha Hollins. You celebrating her? She was Korean. I bet you she's celebrating 4th of July. She's celebrating that she can kill a baby and serve probation. Go back to her store over a bottle of orange juice. That bottle of orange juice was more life was more important than Latasha Holland's life. Let's keep reading. We got a few minutes left.
Come. They felt themselves victim of grievous wrongs, who wholly incurable in their colonial capacity. With brave men, there's always a remedy for oppression.
Brave men is always a remedy for oppression. But these men ain't brave. They did this for money. They did this for money. And in doing that, they became the most powerful nation on earth. Why? Because the Most High allowed it to happen. Through our slavery, through our hard work. They want to say slaves were dumb and didn't know anything. Well, how in the hell do you think, who read the blueprints? Masters wasn't reading blueprints. No. Overseers wasn't reading blueprints. No. Only thing they were doing was saying, get to work or I'm going to whip you. Get to work or once I'm going to take your woman. It ain't going to be nothing you can do about it. We're the ones who not only read the blueprints, but drew up the blueprints. We kept everything going. You want to say we were ignorant? We couldn't read? We couldn't write? Nah. That's what they want us to believe, so that we believe that we're dumb. We're inherently stupid. That is the farthest from the truth. When in fact most of them overseers couldn't read, couldn't write. They couldn't do any of that stuff. We were the ones that were doing it. You were in construction at one point in time. You know how difficult it is to measure something out and to get it exactly right. Or if you don't get it exactly right, that measurement, it throws the whole thing off. You know how I just learned, well, it was a few years ago, but I just learned that in order to put up a wall, you have to put the door frame up first. And if you don't put the door frame up first, you got to take the whole thing down and do it all over again. Overseer wouldn't know anything about that. He wouldn't know the difference between this nail that goes in the roof or this nail that goes in the wall or this nail to hang up a picture. What type of hammers, what type of screwdrivers. They wouldn't know anything like that. We were the ones who did all that. We were the ones who created the tools for it. You had something?
Sir, the wrench was created by a black man, and they nicknamed it a monkey wrench because he was black.
Yeah. How about that?
A monkey, and he created the wrench.
And he created the wrench. Name a plumber that can do his job without a wrench. You can't. Electricians use wrenches. You know what I'm saying? Carpenters use wrenches. All these different trades use wrenches. They want to throw dirt on our names, throw dirt on us so bad. Why? Because they know we are so good. We are separate. Even in our low state, we're creating things to make the world better. How is the world better from creating a nuclear bomb? Huh? How is the world better for creating an automatic weapon? How is the world better for creating a dirty bomb? It's not. It's not. But you know what? The world was better for creating the cotton gin, especially for us in particular. If anybody doesn't know what a cotton gin is, if you take cotton, raw, unprocessed cotton, if you take that, there's a bunch of leaves and stems that's still in it. You have to take that off, take that apart, and get the raw cotton. It takes hours to do this. It takes hours to do this, right? The cotton gin essentially made that process automatic, created a machine. Black man created a machine to take that to do that process. All the while, he still had to go out and produce. When I say produce, he had to go out and pick his however many 100 pounds, 200 pounds of cotton every day, and still going to get this machine done. But then we're going to celebrate the people who put him under those conditions. You celebrate anything like that, you are a traitor. Can't go over all this. what Frederick Douglass was saying, essentially, he said, this is for you, you oppressors. He's not using my words, but he said it's basically for you. We were still the mammies. We were still the field hands. We were still are at that point in time. It was 1852 because slavery was still the Civil War hadn't even started. We were still tending to all of your needs and wants and desires. And even still is not our independence. We can't celebrate this because we are still oppressed. He was technically breaking the law by being a free slave, by being a free man. He ran away, and they made laws to say if you ran away, you can be hunted down like a dog and be punished by however way they wanted to punish you, and then brought into slavery. And anybody who helped you could be subjected to the law as well. So when he was talking about, 4th of July for Black people, we were in chains, literally in chains. Native Americans were literally on concentration camps. When I brought up the subject of the Great Depression, the country was under 25% unemployment rate, and people were throwing themselves off of buildings. What the unemployment rate of the average reservation?
Somewhere around 80.
Yes, 75 to 80%. 75 to 80%. Drugs is prevalent in the reservation. Alcoholism is prevalent in the reservation. And you want to tell us to celebrate the results of that? The result of them gaining independence is Native Americans on the reservations, Hispanic babies in cages, us going to prison pipeline, school to prison pipeline. And it's not just us, it's also Hispanics and Native Americans as well. Same deal. So you want to celebrate the 4th of July and celebrate the legacy of the destruction of so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans? I will leave you with this. All right, enough. And with that, I pass the class to Priest and Officer Pagabua.
I.S.U.P.K. security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K. out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Command of General Yahanna. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After the 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and Malachi, chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. It means 10th in Hebrew and is pronounced ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. The upcoming holy convocation.
Memorial blowing of trumpets.
The memorial of the blowing of trumpets. September 25th, 2022. You can find this in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verses 24 through 25. Remind Akim and Akwathian to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, he should start wearing all black, which includes black boots, black shirts, black pants, black headband, or scarf. And with that, I say Imadium, which means to stand. Men of Israel, we'll give one courtesy salute to the teacher. Men of Israel, Imadium Shabbat, Imadium, Barak, Yahanna, Hashem, Yahushua, Barakatah.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Barakat.
Yahya Matah, class dismissed.